So we're going to start messing around with this prime mover forklift, and there it is right there. I bought this a couple years ago and it does not have an engine on it, and the hydros are full of water, so we have to drain the whole hydraulic system. That's very important. And then we got to put an engine on it. It's drive shaft driven. There's a drive shaft. Here's a counterweight that I got to move out of there. But it's also, the way it works, it's actually pretty cool. I do believe lift up is reverse, push down is forward, and I think this is a brake right there. But everything's kind of stuck and frozen, so I have to go through everything and free everything up before I put an engine on there. I did pressure wash it last year and put a coat of paint on the frame. I did not paint the boom part, obviously. I could take all this off if I wanted, but I am not going to. It's just a workout in the yard. But there's those two hooks right there and here. Right there and right there. And it just sits on this bar. And there's a bolt underneath it, so it doesn't fall off the bar, obviously. And then this plate is bolted to the top of the frame there. So it wouldn't be that hard to take off, but I'd have to get the excavator out, lift the weight up with the excavator, and then I'd have to put it all back on too. So no need to do all that. So we are going to concentrate on draining some of the fluid today. That's where we're going to start. Drain the fluid, that way that is one less thing, and we also have to start freeing up some of the linkage for the handbrake and the controls. The handlebars go up and down. I do believe that's, like I said, that's reverse, I think, and I would think that would be forward, but we'll see. And that's the stand to put on the back. Well, this hydraulic fluid is a little worse than I thought. When I took off the lid, it was pink to begin with, which is not good. Pink frothy. And if you look in the tank, let me try to get a light in there for you a little bit. If you look in the tank, you can see it's all pink sludge at the bottom. So that's got to come off. I am going to flush the system with hydraulic fluid 2 or 3 times if I can get this up and running and working. But I still like to get as much out as possible before I start adding new hydraulic fluid. So I have this all the way down as far as it can go, and I have it tipped all the way forward on that cylinder there. So now it's a little bit safer. There's shouldn't be any built up pressure. So now I can start disconnecting some hoses. Well, that did not go how I wanted it to. I could not get the gas tank off because there is a metal T underneath there with a hydraulic line going underneath the frame over to there and underneath the frame going over to here. And I don't feel like climbing underneath. So I disconnected as many of the hoses as possible. I put my vacuum on it and I siphoned out as much hydraulic fluid as possible. As you saw when it was going in the funnel, it was rather disgusting. And what I also did was I poured new kerosene in the tank and I flushed it out and I got I'd say 90% of the goop out of there. So I am gonna cycle, once I get it running, I am gonna cycle out some new hydraulic fluid a couple times in there. So that should work. I don't wanna sink too much money into this in case the pump's bad or something like that. So now we just gotta put an engine on it and go from there. Here's the drive shaft right there. So it's drive shaft driven. We got to throw an engine on there and we have to free up all the linkage. So the first thing I'm going to work on is freeing up the linkage, because the last thing I want to do is put an engine on here and not have any control over it. So I don't need to put a new garage door in. So we're going to start looking at the linkage next. I'm back out here. I had to stop to grab something to eat real quick. So like I said, hydraulics are drained. What we're going to do is we're going to work on the emergency brake, or the brake cable, which is this one. And let me go underneath and I'll show you, go to this side. I'm gonna put you on wide angle here. And I'm gonna show you how this brake system basically is supposed to work. Go underneath and you have the transaxle, or whatever you wanna call it, the drive system right here. And there's a disc, and all it is a disc brake. This is the brake cable. And it basically squeezes these two brake pads on this disc. Number one is covered in oil. So that's easy. That's the little brake cleaner. Here's your drive shaft that goes to the engine. So that's easy. But I do believe this cable is frozen in this cable sleeve. So I'm going to disconnect this here. And I'm going to work on making sure this cable isn't frozen all the way up to the handle, because this obviously is not. This moves, no problem. So it's quick and simple. Gonna pop this off and we're gonna free up the cable. I'm on the other side of the machine. Here's that brake cable right here. This is where it was connected. Here's the return spring. And here's the brake cable. I gotta take that clip off over there. I have the cable off, and it is definitely stiff inside there. This should be super smooth, but there's nothing wrong with it. It just needs some cleaning. So instead of putting a new one on, because they don't make them like they used to, and plus it has all these special ends and stuff like that, and there's nothing wrong with this. This just needs to be cleaned up. I am going to, I think, soak it in a pail with a little bit of kerosene in it, because it just has a metal sheath on it and it'll absorb through. And kerosene is petroleum and it acts as a lubricant also. And then when it's done soaking and cleaning, then I'll probably soak it with some cable oil, spray some cable oil down in there. And that should clean it up, free it up a little bit. First thing I'm gonna do though is I'm gonna zip tie it in a circle. 2 reasons: that way it fits. Second reason, it opens it up. It'll open up these cracks in here. And third, it'll fit in my bucket. You can already see all the dirt coming off of it. So we're just going to set that down and let that soak for a while. The brake cable is off. The brakes are clean. There's no throttle cable, depending on what engine we put on there. But the way this works is you push down, this cable puts it in a certain gear, or forward or reverse. Pull back, it goes in the other direction. So I think I'm going to take this off also, just this end, straighten it out, and see if I can get some lubricant down inside here. Looks pretty simple to take off. Well, this cable's nice and free. I took it off both ends and greased it up the best I could get it in there, and just got it moving a lot smoother. So that's good. It goes all the way down to the transmission or the gearbox down there. I cleaned the brakes off, the brake disc down in there, and the brake cable is still soaking. Yeah, I'd say that was a little dirty in there, huh? So we're gonna let that soak. We got no need for it anytime soon. It'll just be in the way. And I picked up a Predator engine, and it had a damaged box. So I'm hoping the engine's not, hoping the engine's not damaged. But we're gonna take that out, and we're gonna see if the bolt pattern lines up. That has a 3/4 inch drive shaft, or a crankshaft, I do believe. And I do believe that's an inch. So I have an adapter somewhere. And if I don't have an adapter, I'll have to buy one. Not sure if you're gonna be able to see. None of the bolt holes line up. The drive shaft is off center. The drive shaft is off to the side of the cylinder. It's right here. And the engine's gotta go pretty much where I have it right now. Only problem is there are no holes for this engine to mount right there. There's nothing there. So I'm gonna have to make a template and see if I could drill through this bottom plate, which is really thick. And then I'll be able to do it. That's concrete. How far does this drive go? There. So I decided I'm gonna put a coat of paint on there. This is the first time I've seen Rust-Oleum where it has different nozzles. That's gonna be pretty cool. Okay, while I was waiting, I ended up ordering an engine plate that I'm gonna probably weld where I need it, so that way I don't have to drill down through the 1/4 inch plate. But while I was waiting for this to come in, I decided to put a coat of paint on it. Looks a lot better that way. So now I gotta take off all the masking. Should be dry. Yep, at least it looks better. Anyways, this is what the engine actually mounts to, will bolt to. And it comes with a bolts and some spacers. But I'm gonna weld probably brackets on here to hold it up where I want it and over where I want it. But let's take all that masking off. Oh, besides all the yellow overspray on my garage floor, it looks a little bit better. I didn't go too crazy with it, but I covered all the hydraulic fittings to make them easier to take off next time. Put a light coat on the backside of the boom and a very light coat on the front. I figure I could do this part later once the engine's on. So this is all set. Yeah, missed a little piece right there. So this is all set. So now we got to figure out the engine plate situation. See, because this is concrete and this concrete comes back to here. And this is 1/2-inch steel. And I definitely cannot be drilling through 1/2-inch steel and concrete to mount an engine. So I figure I'll raise the engine. I bought that engine plate and the engine's got to be over here. So I'll mount the engine plate here up in the air, suspended on like angle iron or 1-inch square tube, something. And then I'll be able to put it where I need it. Well, let's see how that works. Well, I hope today's the day. I got another part in. The drive shaft, it had an old Wisconsin engine on it, and they all had 1-inch diameter drive shafts, or a crankshaft. So here's a drive shaft with a 1-inch diameter hole in it. But the Harbor Freight engine I bought, the 212cc, here's one of my cats. The 212cc has a 3/4 inch crankshaft. So I ended up picking up a crankshaft adapter. It goes from 3/4 to 1 inch, and it has a step key in it too. So let's see. The keyways on different size crankshafts are different. So this is a keyway off the engine, and that's too small for the one on the drive shaft. So this specific one is actually made for the Predator engines. This is the same length as the shaft on the crankshaft on the engine. The other ones that I have, they're longer, so you actually have to cut them to what length you need. So I got this one, and you can see the keyway is actually stepped. So the small part goes in the engine. So it'll go like that once it's on the engine. So I thought it was a 7/8 of an inch crankshaft, but it's not. It's actually 3/4, because I have the larger ones for the Honda engines, but I didn't have this size. So now I have it. I actually have a couple of them, threw them up in a bin. So now we gotta put the engine together, and let's hope it fits. Now I'm tempted to start it, but I didn't do the brake cable yet. The brake cable's right here drying off. It's ready to put back on. So I put engine oil in it. It's 0.5 of a quart of 1030, basically whatever spills out. I put straight gas in with stabilizer, and then I put some hydraulic fluid in the tank. So everything's ready to go. I just don't want to start it up until I put the brake cable on, because that way hopefully at least there's some kind of control. So let's do the brake cable real quick. The brake is on. That's how that works. You could look down there, just barely see it moving in there. Hopefully you don't need brakes a lot. So and here's your emergency brake. You squeeze this and you put this up in there like that and like that, and then that holds it. So the only one thing left to do, and that's to start this thing up and hope it doesn't go up through my garage. I have no clue what works, what doesn't work. I've never started this, never had an engine on it. Engine that I got it with was seized. Hydraulic fluid's full, engine oil's full, gas is full. I'm gonna end up cycling that hydraulic fluid out a couple times just to get rid of the old crap that's still stuck in there. Hopefully I don't have too many leaks. I undid most of the hydraulic lines. I do believe this cylinder leaks a little bit, but we'll see. I think that's what the guy told me. Well, let's fire it up. I did like 4 gallons already through the hydraulic system. No leaks. So the only thing is that squeal with the hydraulics. And I think the hydraulic fluid is wrong. I think it's too thick a hydraulic fluid. But I'll do a little research, but at least I can move it now and I can put it back outside. I'll cover it up. I'll cover up the engine. I gotta eventually make a cover for right there. One thing I did notice that I do have to do is I have to take this off again because, watch this, ready? That's not good. That keyway, or the keyway, doesn't hold it on the crankshaft. So what I have to do is I actually have to back this set screw off, and I'll pull it out this way and I'll drill a hole through. And then that way this keyway will hold that on there. That's what it's supposed to do, how it's supposed to stay on there. But because I have this spacer on there, obviously that doesn't work. So I got to take this apart, and then that way I could put a larger hole through this adapter. Once there's a hole in that through that adapter, this keyway can go through the adapter and onto the crankshaft, and then that won't fall off. I'm glad I noticed that. But yeah, that's the only major thing that has to be done besides filling out the hydraulic fluid. Goes up and down. That's all I could ask for. And it moves. That's actually the more important part. It's a cool little toy. Use it around the house for a little while, and we'll see. Either sell it or just add it to my collection of toys. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap this video up here. I'm going to call that a success. It moves. It didn't move before. The only thing is I got to drain the hydraulic system a few more times, but I'm going to double check the hydraulic fluid to make sure. I think this hydraulic fluid might be a little too thick. I'm going to see if I can do some research. If anybody ever seen one of these, it's a prime mover. If anybody's ever seen one of these and they know what hydraulic fluid, shoot me a message, send me a message. It might be transmission fluid that I'm supposed to have in there, because it was red. And that's a lot more liquidy of a hydraulic fluid. So, but it had a lot of water in it. But at least now it's a lot better, because you saw when I poured it in, when I just drained it a couple times, it was still frothy. So there's still some contamination in there, but that's fine. I just got to figure out what hydraulic fluid to put in that. Engine runs good. The brakes work. It's actually opposite of what I thought to drive forward and backwards. So I do believe you push down to go forward and you pull up to go backwards or to stop. But it does move. That's all I wanted. Now I can put it outside, cover it, because it is winter time, and then I can get going on another project. At least that's movable. All right, well, see you on the next one, guys. Appreciate it. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And like I said, if you've ever seen one of these and you know what type of hydraulic fluid is supposed to be in here, can you please put it in a message and leave a comment and let me know. Right now I have just the cheap stuff from Tractor Supply, and I went with the thicker hydraulic fluid because it's an older machine, but I think that's one reason it's squealing. I think I got to lower this hydraulic fluid down to a lot more liquidy. I forgot, there's a viscous hydraulic fluid. And then here's a drivetrain down there, prime mover right there. Okay, all right, guys, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. I did. See you on the next one.